What's up, Soul Family? Coming at you this time with another Tea Time with Uncle Iroh. So, so for those of you who are new to the channel, whenever I do this, essentially I am channeling or trying to tap into the energy of Uncle Iroh, or at the very least, the kind of advice that he'd try to give you in the situation. Essentially, these are kind of modeled after things your soul needs to hear right now. And a lot of times it's geared more towards like doing things towards nurturing your soul and kind of digging deeper. And I mean, overall, that's a lot of like what my channel is about. But you know, it's kind of trying to encapsulate the perspective of Uncle Iroh while doing so. So I mean, grab your cup of tea and sit down. Now that being said, if you're interested in a one-on-one reading, you can do so by directly messaging me. I'm extending the flash sale until the end of the month, so it'll be $20 for the first 20 minutes of a reading. And you can ask whatever question you want, or I can simply pull and see what comes out. If it doesn't resonate, then I'll simply refund you. That being said, let's jump right in. So, I kind of like the tea leaf cards, especially because like they're pretty much like the exact same color scheme as like the avatar cards. They're like a beige kind of, or not the back, but you know, so I feel like they're in theme. But for the first tea leaf, we have affairs with your family. We have heart with love, deep affection, and caring. We have harp with great happiness. And then last but not least, we have broom with new home, new attitude. So one of the first things that came to my mind was this Uncle Iroh quote where he says, there's nothing wrong with living a life of prosperity and happiness, essentially. And I think there's so many spiritual mentalities and theologies and ideologies that get passed down telling you that you should just neglect money, you should reject the physical, you shouldn't have to worry about anything that is material. And I think that's not inherently true. I think while that is a path, you know, there's nothing wrong with that path. I think that the path of luxury and abundance and having resources and material things to enjoy are very valid experiences to have, and they can be just as spiritual. And again, I'm not saying that you have to prioritize that over other individuals, but at the same time, there's nothing wrong with enjoying them for what it is. Especially if you've been, because, oh, it's crazy. We have, like, the first card that comes out is his son, Lu Ten. So then, the Four of Cups has a lot to do with sitting in dissatisfaction and being frustrated and not being content with whatever situation that you're in, and then having to take a pause to really consider what you want. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with, you know, if that is what you desire, to forsake all physical things and to do that path, but really sit down and think, like, what will make you happy? And if it's living in comfort and having the ability to buy things and go on vacation and do all these great things, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I genuinely feel as if, and I'm not saying that, you know, I have less value when I do not have money, but I feel like the capacity that I have to share that value with others is greatly diminished. When I have resources, I'm able to help somebody on the street who's asking me for money. I can get them a meal. I can give them food. Heck, if I had enough money and I actually had a lot of resources, I can then even probably get them somewhere to stay temporarily, even if it's just for a night or two. So I think the concept that not indulging in luxury being a bad thing is, or not indulging in luxury being the best way to be spiritual or selfless is a little nonsensical, to be completely honest. You can be very giving and kind with resources, and in fact, it might be even more ideal. And then we have the Ace of Pentacles. So it came to us reversed, so it could be that maybe there has been like a lack of opportunities, and that could be shifting. I believe that a lot of times it's always a matter of, like, we tend to sit in discontent for periods in time, but that sharpens our focus as to what we want. And the way that reality responds to us is when we are certain about what we want, then it allows things to pop into our experience that much faster, especially when we don't have any doubts, especially when we don't have anything that is kind of going against whatever that intention is that we're setting. And the path isn't always, you know, straightforward. It's not always easy. We don't always exactly get to just set that intention and then, you know, it happens over. And sometimes, okay, don't let me put a limiting belief in your head, because I mean, what you can manifest is not up to my capacity. It's only ever up to your capacity and like what you are good at. But being a little bit more in the general sense, typically speaking, it's okay that when we set intentions that it takes a little bit of time for us to get the manifestation, because essentially what's happening is reality is helping create the version of you that is going to align with that manifestation. Like, say you want to be wealthy, then what reality is going to do is give you experiences that are going to push you to essentially break out of like whatever old paradigm that you were in. It's going to force you to like face your limiting beliefs and kind of break out of whatever rigid paradigms or thought structures that were holding you captive from being able to fully access that reality. There's so many times where we're not even aware of the negative belief systems that are in place within our experience that are causing us to be held back, or that are causing us to be chained, that are causing us to be bound. We're not always aware of the illusions in our experience. So I think, no, I don't think what reality does is it starts to then give us experiences that are going to get us to where we need to get to. And I understand where people say manifestation's instant, which it very much so is. But I think we always have to keep in mind that there is still always going to be something that we desire, and it takes sometimes time to become a match to that. And eventually, once you start being able to operate out of a higher frequency consistently, and you are, more skilled in manifestation, I'm pretty sure those things get streamlined into your experience a lot faster. But there is still a calibration process for most people to start acclimating to these better things and to these different experiences. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's learning how to essentially bend and generate reality to your will, and it's okay that that's going to, in some cases, take some time and effort. It's not exactly something that just happens, instantaneously to the point where you can just want $1 million and it pops into your account by the next morning. And again, I'm not trying to put a limiting belief in your head. I believe in reality shifting. So if you did a guided meditation and you actually managed to reality shift, you can quantum leap into a version where there's $1 million in your account overnight. I'm not discounting that potential. But when we're trying to get to that, through this reality, because even in that context, you're shifting into a reality in which a version of you took action to get to that $1 million. So what would happen is you're still aligning to the version of you that's going to be able to sustain and create that experience consistently. And then that's what many times leads us back to, I'm going to go back to the Oracle cards because I kind of been neglecting them, but at the same time I feel like what I've been referencing still kind of brings these things in. It's like when you're able to have money, that's when you can buy yourself a new home. That's when you're able to actually engage in doing these better things for yourself. That's when you're able to draw in love. That's when you dropped one. That's when you're able to draw in love, when you're able to draw in happiness. Like that's when you're able to bring these things into your experience, when you're starting to consistently operate at that level and releasing those old belief structures that were keeping you from experiencing it. Because so many times we want stuff like love and these deeper connections, but we don't necessarily know how to operate in the healthiest way to bring them into our experience. The one thing that I'm not really clear on would be the affairs with the family. So I'm going to pull a couple more cards and kind of see what this is referencing. Maybe it's something positive, maybe it's something a little bit along the lines of having to navigate like negative interactions, but I guess we'll find out. So I guess what are we looking at when it comes to the family affairs that we're looking into? We have the King of Cups. Doesn't really give me much. Let me pull like a couple more. The Empress. The Wheel of Fortune. I just dropped all of those. I gotta pick those up in a second. And then the Eight of Cups. So it makes me feel as if maybe this isn't anything too negative. The cards that came out are typically really positive cards, like sorry, it's all scattered. But the King of Cups and the Empress are usually cards of compassion, of kindness, and of loving characters. And then even the Wheel of Fortune from the perspective I'm holding, would make me think that, maybe we've gone through cycles of growth with our family. So I'd like to think that whatever this is pointing towards like you having undergone these experiences, or you shifting into better experiences with these people around you. Maybe it's just your parents, especially since there's like a masculine and feminine figure. Maybe it's like a brother and a sister. I'm not exactly sure who you are working with or taking with you, but it's something along those lines, it seems like. Maybe you guys have undergone like cycles of growth together, and it's been a very tumultuous time, and now you guys are heading into this era of prosperity and peace. And maybe you're moving into a home with your family. Okay, that makes sense. Maybe you're moving into a family home. Family affairs with a new home would insinuate that maybe you're grouping or you're moving together with other individuals. But I'm going to take this to part 2, and I'll catch you there. What's up, guys? Welcome back to part 2 of Tea Time with Iroh. So this is a continuation of the last reading, and if it's on YouTube, this is just going to be one video, so this intro is kind of, just useless, but let's jump right in. So it could be either the energy, again, of you guys moving in together with family, or with the Eight of Cups, it could be pointing towards, like, you moving away from family, you being the one to kind of get your own new home and moving out of a family dynamic with, people you could very well be caring and loving with or connected to, but simply time for you to shift out of the experience with them. So overall, it seems like it seems like Iroh's bringing like good fortune, messages of good fortune, and kind of navigating that is what it seems to be. Okay, and then Five of Swords. So the Five of Swords points towards maybe there are disagreements, arguments, maybe there is like conflict that you've been having to deal with around your family then. Maybe it's not exactly a peaceful dynamic, but maybe we are looking at cycles of having to deal with conflict, then not conflict, something along those lines. And the way that I'd like to believe that we'd handle this is sometimes just the best way to break a cycle is to simply not entertain it anymore and to not even put ourselves in the position of trying to maybe communicate to somebody who is committed to not hearing us. If you're speaking to a brick wall, then it doesn't necessarily matter what you say. They're not going to be receptive to what you're saying. Communication, unfortunately, takes two parts, and not everybody has, or two parts, two perspectives, two people. And if some people don't have the bandwidth to fully hear or comprehend what you are saying, then it can lead to conflict. And it's not necessarily a slight against them. Some people just don't have the bandwidth to fully understand or comprehend or grasp what you're trying to communicate to them. And that's perfectly fine. It's just where they are within their journey and with what they currently understand or how to comprehend or process whatever information where they are. So maybe it's the energy of you're moving in with family into a new home and you are concerned about the conflicts that might arise. Even though they might be caring and compassionate individuals, it could be that there's still a gap in communication, or it could be the energy of you moving away from these family members into your new home as a result of the conflict. And if that's the case, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Sometimes that's just what it is, and we don't necessarily have to. We can still love and be kind and connected to people without necessarily having a connection that is conflict-free. Sometimes that is just what happens, especially when it comes to family dynamics, where we're not necessarily able to fully just connect in the healthiest way. And sometimes being able to be somewhere else is simply the easiest way to bridge that gap. So maybe this is the energy of, because it's a Tower card, so maybe the way that you were living prior, maybe like living with them wasn't sustainable, and maybe you've just outgrown having to be in that connection. And now it's time for you to experience something different. The Tower card can sometimes be a little bit jarring, especially because it can bring a little bit of chaos. But sometimes it's because we are meant to rebuild something different. It's like the structure we've been existing in, the reality that we've been existing in, the things that we've been, experiencing are no longer a match to who we are. And as a result of that, our reality has to restructure in the fastest way possible. And that is what Tower moments essentially are, when we are a match, or sometimes, they are other things, but in many cases, when we are trying to set intentions to work towards something, then catalysts might push us in ways that are not necessarily comfortable or sometimes just downright traumatic in the moment. But, that's kind of just partially how the process of manifestation goes sometimes. If we are especially not doing it from a place of having, or at least feeling stable and being able to feel secure in what we're trying to bring in. Then we have the King of Pentacles. So maybe you're somebody who is really good at working hard and putting effort and making really, really, really grounded steps towards whatever intentions that you have and working diligently towards them. In addition to that, maybe you're really good at managing the resources that you have. And there's nothing wrong with not necessarily being rich, but still having a certain level of mastery over the physical realm. And I think we sometimes believe that we have to, be a billionaire in order to exude the King of Pentacles energy, when in reality, sometimes it's the fact that we are able to manage what we have and do what we have, and it works out the way, and the fact that we're able to make things work out the way that it does with what we have, if that makes any sense. It's like people who are able to make like $2 go like a fucking, I'm sorry, excuse me, it doesn't matter. People who are able to make $2 go like a mile. You know, it's like sometimes people are able to hustle, or sometimes people are able to turn that $2 into like $20. You know what I mean? Like, you never know how efficient you are at something, and just because you don't have the resources to be more efficient, it doesn't mean that you're not good at what you have, or good at using what you have already. I just dropped like half the dang deck, so I guess it's going to be pretty much like a culmination of the reading. But before I do that, we'll look at the bottom of the deck. Oh, and the Queen of Pentacles. So I'm going to grab the cards that fell, and we'll go from there. So then we have the Sun card, the Judgment card, we have the Nine of Cups, and then we have the Ace of Swords. So this is definitely the energy of having to trust like your spirit guides, trusting the divine, and trusting like the signs and synchronicities that you're seeing that are leading you to get to where you have to get to. It's not always easy to trust that what we are doing is going to lead us to where we want to get to before we get there, but sometimes we really do have to follow the signs as they come, and then trust that we are connected to what's giving us the signs in a way that is efficient for us. And when it comes to if there's been like a lot of or a lack of clarity with the Sun and the Ace of Swords, it's like that's going to shift. Like whatever you're trying to seek or gain clarity on, like that's going to change. You're going to have, clear options. You're going to have a clear way and a clear path of being able to navigate this shortly. So it's just a matter of staying the path and trusting that you will get that insight and you'll get that path. And then once you actually receive that communication, trusting that it's what you are getting and moving towards it. And ultimately, it's going to lead to high levels of satisfaction. It's going to lead to like whatever you're hoping for being fulfilled. This is like the wish fulfilled card. So it's like whatever you're desiring, it's going to work out. It's just a matter of continuing to trust the guidance and the steps that you're taking towards bringing that into reality. Sorry, I just dropped like half the deck again. And then we have the Queen of Pentacles on the bottom. I'm just going to pull that out. So again, makes me feel as if you're somebody who is really resourceful, really good at managing what you have. And once again, if both the King and the Queen come out, like you're good at what you do. You're good at using what you have. It's just a matter, and you're good at being practical even, and grounded and rational of how you are approaching your goals. So trust that you are doing such and continue to make steps from that perspective. Pentacles energy is slow moving, and it's also the energy of stability. It's something that it's very tangible, very dense. So it takes effort and time to move sometimes. So building an empire can take time. It's like when you think about the Earth Empire, it's like the Great Wall of Boston Say. When you think about the Great Wall of China, that thing was built over God knows how long. And to this day, it is still one of the most amazing things on this planet, because of the amount of effort and intention that you can tell. I mean, it's impossible for you not to see, how magnificent something like that is. So I think it's important to be mindful that when we are trying to create something that is going to last, it takes time and effort, and it's not always going to happen in the way that we are, or in the timing that we are hoping for it to. But that being said, peace and blessings, you guys. I hope this resonated with somebody, and I'll catch you guys in the next reading.